Do you remember clock radios? These products were once highly popular and present in just about any home. Nowadays, they are hardly seen and we may have forgotten about them. What changed in a couple of decades? The late 1970s brought the first clock radios. The design incorporated an electromechanical clock with a flipping display as shown in the picture or with a standard clock face as mechanical ones did. The radio was designed similarly to portable receivers, being compact and efficient. Neither the clock nor the radio were built for quality. The clock drifted a couple of minutes every month, and the radio may have been unable to pick weaker stations. What mattered was the comfort of being awakened not by an annoying alarm, but listening to your favorite radio station at your desired volume, and this was what made clock radios highly popular. The 1980s brought digital clocks, improved designs, and the all-important snooze function, allowing you to turn off the radio for 5 to 10 minutes depending on the product, attempting to get a bit more time to rest. The digital LED display clock was easily visible, slightly more accurate, but also more prone to reset during small mains line voltage dips or short interruptions. Some models incorporated a backup battery, but most users were unaware when the battery was depleted, making it impossible to trigger an alarm. This was due to the fact that there was no indication on the panel when the battery was depleted. The radio tuning capability and audio output quality was unchanged, still mediocre even after a couple of decades since these products were first manufactured and released on the market. These shortcomings were present in most products ever since, as manufacturers focused on cost-cutting or new features to lure more buyers. Actually, the 1980s and 1990s saw very little changes in terms of functionalities and designs, although cost-cutting measures were quite important. The 2000s left us mostly with the same product lineup, although some manufacturers experienced with milder improvements such as a larger display, different color LEDs, and even projection, or made more serious changes such as incorporating a CD player and having stereo speakers. Audio quality was still below the one of portable devices, and cost was still the main goal even when incorporating advanced functionality. The unreliable backup battery system for the clock was left in place with the same risk of not knowing when you are not covered. This meant that actually you had very few major changes in terms of functionality or reliability of these products, and they were still catering to the same user type. However, as technology advanced, we will see that there are some interesting developments. And here we are 20 more years later in 2020s, and we wonder what actually changed. Well, the market is still dominated by the popular low-end lineup, which features models that were similarly manufactured some 20 years ago, so you can still find the same analog radio tuner with a digital clock, and also you can find out more about more advanced designs. However, they were also more expensive. What matters in this product lineup is that innovations may incorporate Bluetooth functionality, acting as a speaker for your smartphone, or they may also relate to a digital tuner to receive analog and even digital radio broadcasts in selected models. Of course, these are features on the most advanced models that can be actually quite pricey. How much, you may ask? Well, I think around $40 to $50 or euros to have a rough understanding, when your typical clock radio is still available on the market for roughly a tenth of that price. So this means that it's quite difficult to justify such a purchase nowadays for the more advanced models, especially when you take into consideration that you have also other devices that could have the same functionality, such as your smartphone. However, multiple ways to configure multiple alarms, weekday-specific alarms, can be a feature that would attract some users, along with the presence of ambience light that can be finely tuned to your liking. And of course, since we have more cheaply available electronics, having a rechargeable battery incorporated in the device, or just about any way of maintaining or synchronizing the time when power may be off, means that power outage may not be leaving you with the same issues that you had before with clock radios, such as not triggering an alarm if the power went off and the device reset its clock. So we are left with the question, do we still need clock radios? I think the short and clear answer is certainly no. And why would that be? Because we have smartphones and we have so many other devices that are having much better functionality, and they still are much more easier to configure. Keep in mind that setting the alarm and setting the time on a standard clock radio with, of course, a digital display means that you have to press so many buttons, and you may have to do that time and time again when you need to change the alarms. Since we do not have a schedule that is as easily reproduced day after day, these type of disadvantages are felt much more strongly in today's world than they were in the past. Next, of course, you may be thinking about why would you actually choose such a clock, because it's not necessarily an energy efficient product. Most devices are actually built very cheaply, and although they may not consume a lot of energy, they still release some heat due to poor electronics design, especially due to the amount of heat that is being released, and of course the chemicals that may be present and emitted by the plastic that is slightly heated. So this is a concern, particularly with devices that are staying quite close to the bed, as most clock radios do. And moreover, it's quite difficult to justify using such a product when there are still disadvantages of using backup batteries, and you still have the 9-volt battery you may have seen since the early 1980s on the cheapest models, and the more advanced ones, of course, have internal rechargeable batteries but may still require an external power source or to be charged from time to time. So there are still some aspects that may be less favorable to using them. And of course, you may wonder, why would you need another clock when you have one that is self-adjusting in your smartphone, in your laptop, and particularly when smartphones have such good abilities to trigger multiple alarms, to have different alarms based on your daily routine, and so many other aspects that really are hardly ever required and hardly ever possible to be as easily configured on clock radios. So actually, I think that clock radios are mostly interesting as a curiosity, as a type of device that was once very easily available and that changed our life, a foray into how our society worked some decades ago. Nowadays, I think they are only a curiosity, or if you are interested in what the technology offered back then I assume you can still enjoy using them. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.